We're the Aebi family. My name is Michi from Switzerland. This is Sarah from the US. We have Hannah and Madison. We're working with Air in East Africa, Uganda right now.
The long version or the short version? So we were both single as we started the journey. Michi with a helicopter organization called Mercier, and I had started the process with Air. So we met and we got married, and then we both decided we wanted to stay in mission aviation. So we came out to Air in 2018, and we were in Nairobi working with them for about 6 years. We've always wanted to move to the other base in Uganda, in Arua. We don't like cities. And so Arua is much more rural. You don't have all of the amenities that you have in Nairobi, but it's a better place for a family, we thought. And so we were waiting, because Michi's a mechanic, we were waiting for permission to build a hangar in Arua. And that permission finally came. And so that was the open door that we were waiting for our family to be able to move out. And so there we are. And we've been very happy with the decision to go there.
We both started in professional aviation, and then, we knew that you can use it as missions too. For her, it was not on the first radar. For me, it was actually from the start. I heard of heli mission, and that kept me fascinating. But then, we worked both commercial, did our licensing, got all the training that we needed. And then, for me, it was in 2014, when I felt that this would be the year to now use those skills for missions. Then started looking around and started with Mercier.
For me, I would say it started in college. I was studying aviation in university, so I knew I wanted to be a pilot, but the idea of being an airline pilot just seemed boring, because you sit in a big airplane and you push buttons, and so I was looking for a little bit more adventure. And then I went on a short-term mission trip to Ethiopia, and I was up in the mountains. Basically, we were trekking. We were hiking out in the middle of nowhere, and there was a lady who had a dream that foreigners would eat in her home that day, and that she should listen to what they had to say. And so we went to her house, and basically we shared the story of the gospel with her, and the whole family became believers that day. So that was really what changed my perspective into wanting to be part of what God is doing overseas, and just seeing how God is using missionaries to reach people in the least accessible places. Part of that trip is it had taken us 4 days to get from when we landed in Ethiopia to where we actually met this family. So just realizing also that aviation could have made that a 1 day or 2 or 3 hour trip was powerful for me. That's kind of what sealed the decision to go into missions for me.
We share together a 100% job, so it's not always 50-50. If there's more flying, she works a little more. Mainly we fly for the missionaries in East Africa, from AIM and from SIM, but we work close with other church organizations too. We support them with plane transport. It can be cargo or people or teams or medical evacuations or whatever.
There's also, though, a big need for administration work. There's finances that need to be done. There's pilot training, there's pilot organization, and safety management and quality management. And basically Kenya sees us as if we're an airline. So there's a need for people who are able to do administrative work as well. So I do part-time flying, and part-time I help with the administrative work. It was my first flight with passengers. We had been in the country for about a year. That's how long it basically takes to get the aviation license and to become actually operational after you do language school and take all the tests and everything to get licensed in the country. So I recently received my license, and I was just doing a few more training flights just to basically be operational in the country. So towards the end of this training that I was doing, there was a medevac flight that was requested, and there was space for 2 pilots to go on the flight. So the instructor that I was flying with, his name was Jerry. He asked if I wanted to do the flight, and basically he said, well, you can do it, and he would be in the airplane with me since I wasn't legal to fly passengers by myself yet in the country. So we flew up to a town in northern Kenya, and we picked up an older lady who had a back issue. She would have had to sit for 3 days on public transportation on very bad roads. She couldn't sit up that long. So we loaded her in the airplane, and it was her and her daughter and a friend who were coming. Her daughter spoke English, and I think for the other two, it was their first time ever being in an airplane. And so we took off and we started heading back to Nairobi, and then I would say about an hour into the flight, we were over mountains. I heard that she was sick because she was throwing up a little bit. Normally we'll fly over the mountains, and if there's a little bit of rain, we'll just fly into the rain. And so because she was sick, I decided, let's go around the rain. Let's get a little bit farther from the mountains so that it can be a little bit calmer. So I diverted to the right to go around a rainstorm, and that actually took us closer to the valley. And then about 5 minutes later, there was a bang, and then the engine stopped working. Yeah, we started looking for an emergency landing spot. The other pilot took the controls, and he said, well, do you see anywhere to land out your side? And all I saw was trees and mountains. But he was able to find like one sandy spot out to the other side. It was basically a 6-minute glide down to the ground there. And we landed safely. There were a few bushes. Well, there were a lot of bushes, but we were able to avoid most of them. We hit one and had a dent about this big on the tail. But for it being an emergency landing and that being the only damage to the aircraft, that was pretty amazing. So we landed, and they sent a helicopter to pick us up. While we were gone, we just had to leave the airplane there. So there were some guys who we were able to communicate through a wide variety of, because nobody knew the language. We had English and a little bit of Swahili, but they were Pokat, so that was their language. While they were there guarding the airplane, and while they were waiting for the airplane to be picked up, some of the missionaries in the local village, they didn't even know that there was a village close to where the airplane landed. So they sent some elders out there. And then while they were there, they asked, well, we see there's no church here. The nearest church is 50 kilometers away. Would you guys be interested in establishing a church here? And they said, yes, absolutely. Well, they got funding to put in a well, and the other village has been sending pastors in, and they were able to get the funding to get motorcycles for them to be able to, because it's still like a 4-hour motorcycle ride to get down there. And so they have pastors and elders who are helping to establish a church in that village.
And it's in the middle of a tribal conflict zone. They're semi-nomadic people, so they have to graze or bring their animals to the places where there's grass. And because it's dry, they cannot just stay in one place. This creates conflict, especially when there's lots of animals and not enough grass. So there's constant fighting between those two tribes, Pokots
and
Turkanas. Interestingly, that runway now that they marked out, the place where they landed, it's right at the border between those two tribes. So now they have people from both sides joining the church.
I think one of the biggest challenges we face is just being far from family. I would say that's the hardest thing for me living overseas. We'll do a lot of video calls with the kids and with my mom, and she'll read stories to them, and they have a dollhouse and they'll play in the dollhouse together. Like my mom will move the dolls. So it's taken some creativity to figure out how to maintain that relationship. I think another challenge is just that the day-to-day life is harder. One day I was spending the day making bread, I was making yogurt, I was making granola, and it's just the realization that if I lived in the US or Switzerland, then I wouldn't be making any of these things. I would just be buying them at a grocery store. It's also just the foundational living things take more effort.
There's a purpose to it. We're part of something bigger. It's not just about money. What we do makes sense. It enables other people to do their work better. Yeah, and aviation in general is an attractive profession. You're always in the middle of interesting things. We do like that. We do like the adventure. We like to live in a nice place like Arua. Ugandans are very friendly people. We like the mix of a cool job in a nice place, mixed with a good amount of adventure.
I think we enjoy it. We love life in Arua, and we have chickens and we have a pet tortoise. And life in Africa, I think in general, is a little bit more free than life in Europe or the US. There's just less rules to live by. It's definitely a challenge, being away from the family, and we don't have any frozen meals that we can just buy at the grocery store because we're tired and don't want to cook. So there's those challenges that are there, but it's definitely a rewarding job. The girls love it. They love living in Arua. We're fortunate, eventually we'll have to start homeschooling once they're a little bit older, but that'll be that'll be another challenge that gets added on, but I think we're well set up for that. And then just as Michi said, we work one job 100% between the two of us. So either I'm working and he's home with the kids, or he's working and I'm home with the kids. I think just having that opportunity is kind of rare, that we can both work, but then we both have time that we're home also with the family.
To see results, the stories that especially she brings, or the pilots bring back, to hear what these guys do and be part of their ministries too, that's an exciting thing. That's what keeps us going.
I think that community is one of the biggest things that just keeps us focused on why we're doing what we're doing. I think it's very easy to just feel like it's a job and we're just here to finish the job, and then we're tired and you want to go back home. But then when you get those chances to hear stories, that's definitely helps to keep your eyes focused on why we live the way we do.
Try it out. It's shifting a little bit these days. It's not, well, some people still stay for life, but often we have people, they stay for like just a season. Can be a few years. You don't need to be the rocket scientist. You can't have too much training. A little training helps, but just training and then basically training all the young years, and then that's not worth it either. Try it young. Do some training, but then go and actually reach the ground and work a few years. And if it's not it, then choose or change or whatever. It's worth it. There's so many things other than pilot or mechanics too. There's a lot of admin, there's photography, a whole media section, because these days you need to tell stories well.
The time you spend overseas is never wasted. So, it's investment into whatever community that you're staying in. It's also an investment into your own. Try to come for 2 or 3 years to start, because the first year is very hard and you just want to go home. And so if you can push through that, then after that is when the fruit comes and when you really start to feel comfortable with where you're living and what you're doing. I have a hard time, if I say I'm going to stay somewhere for 10 years or 15 years, I feel like I'm locking myself up into prison. It doesn't matter how beautiful of a place or how wonderful it is. And people ask us all the time, well, is this something you're going to do for life, or is this a short-term thing? And our answer is just, we don't know. We sign up for 2 or 3 years at a time. We're excited for the next couple of years, and then we're going to see where we are after that. That's our long-term plan, is we plan for 2 years at a time. We're excited to become more established in Arua. I think one of the big goals for the ministry is to see the Amer hangar get built and actually start being able to do more maintenance out there. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry for all the interruptions.